Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. It's been a fair while, but welcome to another episode of Transfer Market Metrics by Anfield Index. We've had a bit of hiatus on this, mainly because a lot of the players we've looked at, it's paused a bit, hasn't it? With this Isak saga's been driving on. Of course, David Ornstein drops a bomber today saying that he's almost on strike, isn't he? Refusing to play. He won't play for Newcastle again, so we're hoping that accelerates. But right now, people, as sexy as strikers are, centre-backs is where it's at because we've had double movement. Two players, two centre-backs to talk about. In fact, a third we're going to be referencing at the same time. And when you need stats, when you need analysis, I need to go out to my geek bag and I pull out the best one I can get. Barts, how are we?
We're good, mate. Always good to do a late night pod, but when you've got stuff like this to talk about, really, really good to do it, And we only ever do stuff where there's links, right? And that's why there's been a bit of a break,
Yeah, exactly. There's been a lot of nonsense and the same target's been almost regurgitated, it's fair to say. But yeah, we've got to get into it right now. So just in case, to set the scene, you have been living under a bit of a rock today. Dear God, where do we start here? Well, we'll start with a David Ornstein bomber. That came out, didn't it? Around 4 o'clock, that Liverpool are in talks with Mark Guehi. No bid yet, but they're talking to Crystal Palace. This is after Steve Parrish said, yeah, it's renew or go. That's the way our model operates. There's a feeling this is going to advance, isn't it? Of course. This boy as well, Giovanni Leoni at Parma, 18 years old, the man mountain. As Fabrizio Romano's been all over it this summer, negotiations are underway for him as well. Keen on the move. You might well love this photo. If you've not seen him, if you've not heard of him, there is a photo of Giovanni Leoni absolutely ragdolling, owning Romelu Lukaku, who is a unit himself, isn't he? No doubts about that at all. So maybe that just sets the scene. I'm not sure Barts can put an XG or anything on that, but we'll mention it. There's a third centre-back, Koulierakis. And people are saying, why are you mentioning him, Dave and Barts? But we're going to go into this a little bit, very briefly, around the Greek centre-back. And Indy Callier tweeted about him that Liverpool had been in contact. If you're thinking Indy Callier, who, just to be clear, this is the man that David Ornstein credited as getting things before him. That's the ultimate seal of approval now, the level that's changed. And, of course, we'll be getting into all the stats, all the different bits. Now, I usually will say, when I do this, Bart, and you answer it in the normal sense, the three that you've got, put a label alongside them right now. Excited, not? What you thinking?
I think they're all good signings. I know you hate me sitting on the fence, but I think these are all good picks, right? I think there's one, the youngster I'm excited about because he's a kid, he's a young centre-half. He's got some amazing attributes that we can talk through. And the other two, one's more established in the Premier League than the other, but both, you can see why we've been linked with them. And I think we've all been sat there saying, we need some centre-halves in the squad. And I think, if you get into any two of these three, I should say, I'd be more than happy. I think they're all very, very good centre-half.
Yeah, it will be interesting. And get ready, people, because we're going to run the numbers. Although on this, and this is maybe intriguing me more than anything else, the Greek boy, Koulierakis, because we were speaking just before we've run him before, there's real potential. And also a bit of an update from an analyst the other day that Liverpool like this lad, and with a few tweaks and a bit of coaching, they did think he could be potential one of the top 5 centre-backs in the world, that, the development plane was that high. But I suppose maybe in simplest terms, and we do want to delve into the stats a bit, why has he become third in a 2-horse race almost?
I think we'll have to answer that once we've looked at all three. But I can see why someone, you can all log on and you can have a look. But if you look at the complete report, which we've done a few times, I don't think we've done it with this lad, but if you look at, so it gives you every metric he's possibly got. Yes, it's publicly available data. It's not as in the ground, all those kind of caveats we normally give. But, there are some things here. So his aerial win rate, we always talk about that, right? That's in the 60s. That's 60. So that's a good level to have for a centre half coming in, right? That's a Gomez level. It's like a nudge above Kwanzaa. That's okay. So a lot of his normal miscellaneous stuff are kind of, there's a lot of green there that we can kind of like about. Nothing really to pick out, but there's okay. Yeah, we look at possession, and this is where I've heard a lot of people talk about this lad, and I agree. When we first profiled him, I think we said he was good on the ball. Took some players on here, so 66 percentile for taking players on. His carries are in the mid range. Progressively when he does carry it, so that's sort of from over 20 yards. Yeah, so he's not just dribbling for the sake of it. He's trying to do something with it, and his touches are well spread out through the pitch, right? So that's his possessional stuff. The good thing about his defence, which again we covered back then. I mean, I looked this up. We first looked at this guy in April, right? Would you believe? So, but his interceptions, his tackles, his clearances, they're all in the green. Whereas typically when we look at a centre half, they're missing one of those. Yeah. And it's like this guy's got kind of the full bag here, and he also tackles a low, which is something we do like because it means he's not diving in or making a rash decision. So that's good. Goals and shot creating actions. I mean, he's got a lot of green, but typically that's not something, I don't know about you, but I don't really sign a centre half to go and crank me goal. So, that's not something to look at. But passing, and this is something that people have been speaking about, because you've told me loads of times, Slot wants a baller. He wants someone to play the ball and helps us build from the back, right? Gives us the option, if you mark, not that you can mark VVD, but if you block VVD's passing lanes, you need another player to pass out.
Yeah.
So what's his like? Switches, 98th percentile. And what a beautiful idea. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? Rather than VVD having to ping one into Mo, you've got this group on the right, pinging one out to Cody. I mean, that could be a whole plethora of options for us going forward, right? If we look at, though, breaking it down in terms of what's he doing, passes into penalty area, 87th percentile, crosses, 90 seconds, passes into final third. So that's something to be, from a centre-half position into the final third, 62nd percentile is very good. That's nearly 4 a game he's doing there. Key passes, again, typically not something you see from a centre-half because they're at the beginning of the move, not at the vital bit, should we say. So key pass is something that leads to a assist or a hockey assist, which is one before. 78th percentile. So that's, and he's got expected goals. He's got assists as a centre-half. Right. So, his pass completion for long is a little bit low, but he's taken those on. So the volume is there, should we say. Medium, not so much. And short game, his pass completions in the 90th percentiles, which is low for a centre-half, but high for a normal player, if you get what I mean. Yeah, because typically centre-halves and passing is just blah, 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 blah. Everything else on here is ready in terms of shooting. Okay, again, I'm not buying a centre-half to score me goals, so I'm not expecting him to shoot. But he does have some assists on him, and he does have, because of that, he has some high expected assisted goals. So he does some bits on it. So I think you can see there that defensively he's not weak. Right, he's got the 3 areas, right? Aerially, he's in the 60s, which is something that we look for when we sign a player. And on the ball, he can create opportunities and he can also carry. So those are some key elements of why you could see that this lad was scouted. I mean, you must have got it before we did the show, but April, when we first looked at him. If you look at his top speed, they've wiped it for the start of the season, which is very useful for Bundesliga people. But I remember from memory, I thought it was late 20s. I didn't think he was slow and I didn't think he was rapid from the top of my head. So, I thought there was a lot to like about this lad when we first profiled him. I thought he took on some good positions on where he was. Just looking at where he's involved, there's lots of heat and threat around the areas he is, and where he also dictates tempo. He's in good pockets, in good space. So, for me, I think, as we said in April, there's a lot to like about this kid. There's always going to be bully tax, which you and I talk about. You got to take 15% off, but aerially good, on the ball good from passing, on the ball from carrying, and defensively is able to hit interceptions, tackles, blocks, all of those together. So I think it's a smart package. Anyone who takes a risk on him, I don't think it's a risk. I think it'd be a good signing personally. But
Which, honestly, when you build it like that, I suppose the only thing I thought is he is left-footed. So I do wonder if possibly, and I might be wrong on this, they're thinking, is he ever going to push out Virgil van Dijk maybe, for those few years? Is he going to get those opportunities? That was honestly the only thing I could sort of bring into the mix as the potential. And it also sets the other two up, because if Koulierakis was third in the ones they've picked, as we said, it looks like Leoni and Guehi advancing. So it's probably right to start with the youngest one, because we've done Guehi before, haven't we? We talked about Mark Guehi. I think people are more intrigued by the kid who seems to have played hardly any minutes for Parma, a few minutes from Sampdoria, is so young, is bodying Lukaku by the sounds of it, Italian, that will come into the mix, and that will be a concern for people. But I'm fascinated to know what the stats kind of say for this kid.
So as you said, minutes there, I've only got league minutes in here. I could tweak a little bit more, but it would take a bit of time. He's sort of about 1,200 minutes. So if you look at a kid, typically we say to increase between 20 and 30, there's a mark to increase his playing load. So you're looking at it could probably get up to about 1,500, 1,800 minutes, should we say, without pushing him too much. Yeah. So that's about 25% increase. So yeah. There's room. You've got to build him up. You've got to take that into account. All right. But I think we all know that as well. His success. So if you look at how he is when he's on the pitch, it's green. So considering he's centre half as a kid when he's played, to have a positive impact on your team, you start ticking these things off in your brain about why are we looking for a kid at this age. Miscellaneously. So our big thing, another tick, 63% win rate aerially.
Nice.
Now I know there's some. I've heard he's quite a tall lad, so it would be a shock of mine if he couldn't win aerially most of his duels, particularly if he's got Lukaku and his arm down on the floor. But 63% win rate would put him handsomely just below Konate and BBD. So that would be a very big tick on his front. Now, if we break it off on an overall look, that just looks like a kid profile. We've looked at this before. Remember we did Euro. A while ago. Yeah. And it was like, not a lot to talk about on what's he doing. But if you try and delve in a bit more, which we try and do to give the kid a bit more fairness. We've already said good area win rate. If we look at the other thing that he's got a higher own goal rate. Anyway, I'm going to go past that. Interceptions, he's good at intercepting the ball, low at tackles. Again, that's a trait we like. Okay, intercepting. Blocks is another thing we've been looking at. He's not, so progressive carries, that's not his game. Carrying is not his game. Right, he's not a carrier with the ball. It's not saying he can't do it, it's just not, it's not what you sign an Italian centre half to do. You and I probably both grew up with a similar show on Channel 4, Italian 90, watching beautiful, phenomenal centre half play the ball around so they were midfielders. So keep that in your head maybe. But if you look at his take-on ability, so that's a take-on, then maybe a pass afterwards. He's at 100% and 95th percentile. Tackles in a take-on duel when he's needed to, 93%. 93 percentile. So there's some really good stats there for what he does. Yeah, on the ball. Now, the stuff that people talk a lot to me about him is passing. Right, so if we look at his pass types, he's got passes from free kicks through balls as at 20th percentile. So switches 48th percentile. So not as high as our previous lad, but still in and around where we want. But keeping in mind, this is what he's known for: medium, short, long. Nothing really sticking out apart from pass completion for long is 61st percentile. 61% is higher. In fact, a little bit higher, but the rest of it, again, you'd be looking at it saying, okay, that's a little bit. But it could be Palmer finished 16th, right?
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Yeah.
You can attempt, if you look at his attempted, so he's attempted some high volume here, right? It's attempted a good amount of plays. They could have just fallen to I'm trying to give the kid a little bit of an out here. It could be that he's trying something and it's not coming off, right? So that could be something that's happening. Shot creating actions. So he's actually taking quite a lot of shots on for a centre half, which is a bit weird. But yeah, he's 0.81, so he must have scored a few this season as well. So yeah, I think For me, I think there's a few things here and there. So his long passing rate pleases me. His ability to defend blocks and interceptions pleases me. Blocks I was looking at that 77 percentile, which is high. I believe physically, not only is he tall, he's also late 20s in terms of pace. So, and aerially, again, that's a superb stat to have. I think that was something we said with Euro when we were looking at doing that United pictures. His aerial rate was low. So it's almost a prerequisite for coming in the league. You've got to be able to head the ball in both boxes. So there is some bits there. Now, I did run a bit of a more in-depth analysis on this kid because I just wanted to see what the fuss was about.
Yeah.
And on his little touch map, he's involved in curating threat from his zone. So that is 18% of the team's threat creation for this game is in his zone. All right. Which I didn't think was too bad for a kid with a passing rate of where it was. So that's also showing, that's backing up he's having the idea. He's trying to play a pass from somewhere, right? And it might not then be breaking down later on, but at least he's had the thought to say, right, from here, if I get the ball into there, that's a dangerous area we can play from. Defensively, just to look at in and around the areas you'd expect him to be as a centre half, right? Nothing that you'd be thinking, oh my days, what we on about. But no, I think there's some, for me, there were some pleasing elements. I'm just going to see the passing and what he was involved in. So, yeah, he's involved in short chains, which, again, you'd expect to be a touch or a pass every other minute and then breaks in play would have slowed it down. But, I think he's involved in the build-up, which is a good thing. He seems to create threat from when he is on the ball. Yes, his percentages could be higher for completion. But in terms of his defensive attributes, they seem to be intact as well. And crucially, aerially is something to definitely look for. I did look up on our old favourite Mark R, who's had a bit of a refresh this season. Those who are keen watchers of his website, he's 0.04 XT now. Giving in mind, Konate I think is 0.9, so a little bit low. But Konate played nearly three times the amount of minutes. So there's some things to take into account there. So overall, I think for the right fee, it's not my money, so I don't really care about that. But there's potential there. You say he was 18, isn't it? 18.
Yeah.
As a kid, you could be buying an absolute superstar. You really could. And equally, if you don't, you could do what we did with Step Vanderberg and maybe flip him in a few years' time. You never know.
Which is interesting because, and I suppose I was going to ask you and see if we've got it right, because Paul Joyce has mentioned in his report that Liverpool do see him as potential to be one of the world's best centre-backs. And when we're stacking up, you've always got to remember, he is 18, as you said. Parma, it's important to mention that, people, was 16th in Serie A. So you're thinking he's not a team that's usually in charge of possession, shining, and trying not to be disrespectful to Parma's players. He might just be passing it to Gash players at times, so that can affect his stats.
100%.
At the same time, you've got to factor that in. But the big things I picked up, Barts, in summary, and tell me if I'm wrong on this. Interceptions over tackles, we always talk about that in terms of the reading of the game. The aerial side as well, really strong for someone his age, which we talk about strong. You see his physical presence, you see his size, body and Lukaku, all those types of things. All that into the mix, there's clear green ticks in the boxes for the analyst types like yourself as to where the potential is with Leoni, isn't there?
Oh, 100%. You've got some fundamental stuff you've got to have for me for signing a centre-half, and I'm sure the club will have loads more. But I don't believe he's been injured. I had a quick scan this afternoon. I don't believe he's had an injury. You can mould this kid as well. He's 18. Slot's already proven he can improve players. So you've got a kid who wants to listen, wants to learn. He's got, as you said, that summary is exactly it. Aerially, intercepts and blocks rather than tackles. He can pass the football. It just might be that, as you say, he's been playing with lesser players, should we say, who won't be able to receive it. Whereas if he tries one of the balls with us, it goes into Mo or it goes into Cody and it sticks, doesn't it? And we play. So I think we've been looking for a young centre half for 3-4 seasons, would you say? And if we finally get one,
probably.
It looks like we've done some good work here.
So much. And you're right, you talk about fee. The contract, it suggested that it runs till 2029. Liverpool looking at a deal that suggested around 30 million plus 5 million add-ons. We'll have to see what bears out. Interestingly, though, as the reports come out, it's too much for Italian clubs. It's telling, isn't it, as well, Bart? Inter Milan winked with him. AC Milan wanted him but couldn't, so moved on to Coni de Vinter, a player we looked out. There's a reason why all the top clubs wanted him, and we've made the move. We're not trying to oversell this. We're just being balanced. The potential, the upside is huge for this kid, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. And like, it's going to sound really harsh. And I know there's a lot of people out there who like Kwanzaa, right? But if you think about it like this, yeah, you would sold Kwanzaa for what, 30 million, was it? 30, 35?
Roughly.
Who had an aerial rate that was low. I think physically we can all say that we had some concerns in playing him in bigger games in the Premier League, right? And he was a tad older than, I think just a tad older than this kid is. This kid's coming in, he already ticks the box. He's got some other defensive attributes that Kwanzaa didn't have, as we've already mentioned, interceptions and blocks. It seems like from some of the reports, I mean, Maguire's done some great pieces on him, that he can pass the football if he spends some time looking at footage and the rest of it. It just might be a better environment to play in. I think if you're looking at swapping out that fourth choice centre half for him versus a fourth choice centre half that Slot didn't really rate. Now, you might not agree with that decision, but it's true. He didn't rate him for someone who he's going to get minutes and could be developed. I just think that makes a lot of sense for some personally.
It does. It absolutely does. And I get why everyone will be excited, especially looking at the chat panel and all those bits. There is so much to like about this kid. And because there's always a yet in this. I know when we talk about analysis, when it comes to it. And I understand this. The ultimate move, which it seems to be, is for the now. Liverpool are now in talks, aren't they? They're advanced with Mark Guehi and Crystal Palace. It seems like the Guehi element's already done of the deal, personal terms. But I think it's important that I want to put to you, Barts, that they've not gone just Leoni. It's Guehi and Leoni. And it almost feels like there's one for the now, because we need to win now with Alisson, Salah, VVD and their ages. Leoni's the one, as you said, that's the potential. It feels like, and I don't always like this phrase, I just can't think of a better one, an FSG type signing. So why, I suppose people want to know, why is it Guehi and Leoni? Why won't maybe Leoni just cover it on his own?
I think that's the interesting one. I think there's two parts to this. I think Guehi, we've said before, we've done it, we'll go over some of the stats in a minute, but he's Premier League ready. And I hate that phrase, you and I both do, but he is. True. He's won an FA Cup with Palace, which is no mean feat, right? I thought he played well at the weekend against us, to be honest. I know it's a glorified friendly, whichever part of the camp you're in, but he's an England international, right? And he knows the Premier League. So that I could see as a pretty good rotation option for us in a three. Unfortunately, the other side of it is that it looks like Joe's injury troubles are not behind him. So I think buying two now is us saying, do you know what? We're not leaving anything to chance this season. We're giving you 5 centre halves. If Joe is fit, great. If not, you've still got 4 centre halves to go and win your league title. We've given you 4 fullbacks. And again, if Joe's fit, he can cover in one of them or not. And you stocked in midfield because we've changed the structure up front a little bit, and we're going out for your biggie. So I think this is the club saying, look, you won us the league title in your first season. We're a bit short here. There you go. And now go into business. And why not? If you've got the movement in PSR and you want to future-proof this, why not? Why not get, both of these come in, they can learn from the guy above them, because you're always learning as a player. And then if one or both move on for different reasons over the next 18 months, then you've got people there playing around and playing with the club. So I can see that reason. Guehi, people, I don't know. It's a weird one because I think you and I have chatted about him for a while, and it just seems like it was done maybe, and then it just sort of drifted off a little bit, went quiet, and then it's got picked up again. But if you compare him to the Italian kid, obviously he's going to be better, right? If you compare him to Koulierakis, he is probably slightly edges it, apart from aerials, which we'll come on to, touches and passes attempted, which I think some of that could be the way Palace play a little bit, which we've said before. He also plays in the middle of a three, or he did it at the weekend. So that's differs how you can get out as a pass and things. And if we look into his full report, just to break it up, if it actually loads, yes, it has done. So his aerial win rate is below that 60 mark, which is probably, and we've consistently said this is probably the area which would, if you've got a concern about signing him, that would be one of them, right? But in terms of what else is it, interceptions is a little bit low. He does tackle a bit more, right? So that's a dynamic we don't normally like. Now, some of that could be the way Palace play, some could be, but it's not great. In terms of carrying the ball, he's in the mids. It's not. He does a lot, or he doesn't do anything. Doesn't do a lot. He does in the middle, right? It's 50th percentile, so it's not amazing. And take-ons all green, so he's happy to take a player on, happy to win that duel, which is good. Touches mainly in the defensive or the attacking third. There doesn't really spend a lot of time middle, which says he goes up for set plays or hangs back. Blocks. Good tick, 82nd percentile. So that's good. And particularly blocks passing lanes. Okay, that's good. That's a good stuff to start seeing. And errors makes less than 0.06 errors a game. Again, something that we consistently try and look for in our centre halves. Tackles is probably, that's a good thing, but it's equally, we'd like to see him not doing a lot of tackles because it's a bit reactive. Shot creating actions. Not something we're going to write home about. Pass type. So through balls. So this is where you start to uncover why maybe Slot likes Mark as a player, right? So through balls, 98th percentile for a centre half. All right, switches 75th percentile. Crosses, you can cross a ball 70 seconds. So these are good metrics to have for a centre half, right? If we look at from that, he's got 83rd percentile for assists and expected 90th. So these are good digs, passes to the final third, passing to penalty area, all in the green, high 60s, 70s, which is what our Greek lad was as well, right? Now, yes, there's a lot of red in the passes sections, medium, but the same was for the Greek lad as well. Short is around 90% completion, but he's not doing a lot, right? And again, some of that could be the way Palace play. If you looked at the weekend, they were very good at a short shot back and then putting it in the diagonal channel in the space where our fullbacks were, right? So that's not a game where it's tippy-tappy, keep the ball. Our centre-halves do. That's very much a game of, can I get it to the guy who's supposed to get it over there as quick as possible? Yes, right. Yeah. That's the aim of the game. Long passes, which is further up though, is here. Sorry, is 55% completion, but he attempts a lot, right? So 63rd and 75th are attempted and completed. So he's trying it, and again, this could come back to what you said about the other kid. He could just be playing with forwards that aren't as good as Liverpool forwards. But if he's trying it, then our forwards are more likely to bring that ball down, particularly if it's a through ball. So shots, yeah, okay, he scored a few for them. He's a captain, isn't he? He goes up for set play, so that makes sense. And as I said, the carries he doesn't really do a lot of, but he seems to do quite a lot of progressive carries, which is interesting. So I think with Guehi, you can see through balls. He has an ability on the ball, which we would have scouted extensively to see whether or not it's whether some of the metrics are shown because of the way that Palace play or him as an ability. And that's where you look at some of the stuff he's plays for England and other environments. And I think our boys would have said, if you can do that many or attempt that many through balls and you can try that many switches and that your long balls could be good, then that is a weapon that we want to have. His ability to carry is, as I said, in the middle. When he does carry, he's progressively carrying it as well. So he's in the middle pass well. So, yeah, I think these are all things where they've gone, there is potential there where if you put him in a better environment with a better team, he would give you what you need. Again, we've looked at this before, but he's not, because of the way Palace play. He's not going to be involved a lot in the areas. I mean, he's creating 90% of their threat, so that shows you some of the ability he can do in terms of the long ball. But it's not like, it's not rocket science. It's not going to show up a lot. He's not going to give you any XG or anything. So, and he's not going to be involved in big long passing moves because that's just not his game. Just to give you an idea about what he was in terms of XT. So XT with passes and crosses last season, he's a nudge above Konate. Just passing, he's the same as Konate. So there you go. I think he's another one. They feel he's got a better ability on the ball, I would suggest, than Konate. Particularly in the long pass and the progressive balls, which he seems to be able to do, even in a Palace side that's not asking him to do it. So that's probably where they are. His aerial ability, as we've said, is probably something to keep an eye on at 56%. That'd be lower than even Kwanzaa was. But I think his injury record's also fairly good. And there is a lot to be said sometimes for being Premier League proven, as much as I hate that phrase.
I get it as well. But I suppose to put it in summary then, especially for why Guehi and Leoni right now, as you said, we'll use this phrase again, Premier League ready. You talked there about Guehi. We said before, Slot looking for ballers. He is a better passer than Konate. He is more progressive, especially as you said, for the long balls. He has that ability. And we're not trying to be too derogatory about Palace's forwards because obviously they beat us 3-2 at the weekend at the same time as well. But the ability that, having played in big games as well, I think it's fair to say, which Leoni doesn't have, that comes into the mix at the same time as well. Leoni, the strength, the development, the interceptions, the reading. If these two come in, I think you made a great point there as well, that Joe Gomez, and I've got all the time in the world for Joe Gomez, he's due a testimonial, isn't he? But injuries are such a big question mark there. With a panel, a collection, this is hopefully that they don't now loan Leoni out or anything if they sign him, but assuming all five stay as it would be, Van Dijk, Konate, Guehi, Leoni, Gomez, that's a sensational collection of five, isn't it?
Oh, that's a hell of a section. I mean, can you imagine rocking up to play in the FA Cup with Joe Gomez and Leoni playing? Or Guehi and Gomez? Or just think about that in your lower level games, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. Fine all the way last season, wasn't it? We went with a scratch side because it was nothing. And we go there this time with two England internationals playing at centre half. That's a great option to have. It really is. So I think you'd be hard pushed to find a set of centre halves better than that in the league.
And also, I suppose the final point, because we are talking about these two, and I do want to mention a few of his games, not many. Leoni has also played at right back, so he has that option. Guehi also has a few games where he's played at very few fullback, but a few almost at DM. If you look at his Swansea and Chelsea record, very few though, they are centre halves. Yeah. You could even envisage different systems where, and again, this may be extreme, but say you're away at the Emirates, you could have Konate, VVD, and maybe if you wanted that, couldn't you? You could have really defensive options as Slot's kind of like before at times as well. Not that it's guaranteed to use it, but possible.
Yeah, 100%. And if you start playing around with those ideas, you can also see why you might not need six forwards. Because if you went to go away and you went, right, we want a 3+2 base. Okay. Yeah. We'll play with our two rapid people up the side. You're only going to have two up top, aren't you? So there's options around, which is flexibility, which I think Slot has demanded more for this season. I think you will have a set way of playing. I think you did a great show earlier for your positional show, showing the ways we can do. But I think we will still have that base way of playing. But as you said, last season we didn't really have an option to play a proper back three because it'd be Gravco playing in that, and then we'd lose something in midfield. Well, because if you sign these two, you can play three international level centre halves and keep your midfield options still there, and still have potential attacking width there if you wanted to go that way. Or you might just go, do you know what, we're better than you and play our own system, whatever it is. But it's that flexibility to have, seeing a game out. Away at Everton, Goodison, remember last season,
True.
But we had to bring Endo on. Now, Endo is actually quite right, yeah. But again, imagine that you go, do you know what? Let's just do our Klopp's last card is put another centre half on. Well, you could do that this time around, couldn't you? Because you've got 5 to choose from. Put another one on, wins the balls, and you never know. So I think it just gives us attacking flexibility. He's 18, so he wouldn't count as non-homegrown, I understand. And Guehi is homegrown, so that helps us with those. So I think there's some really good positives there from signing both those players over the Greek lad, who I still think is a great centre half, and someone will get a great signing out of him.
Yeah, and I think that's why I mentioned it, people. Koulierakis was looked at, as we know that they had high hopes, but there's still a reason, and that's the standard why Liverpool have picked or look at advancing with these two. Obviously, as we sit here on Tuesday evening, we'll have to see what happens on Wednesday, but everything's set to advance as far as we're aware. We await further developments on that. I'm impressed he managed to do a whole transfer market metric show and not really mention Isak and other bits for the forward line, but obviously we'll see if anything develops around that. All it leaves me to say, for the analysis of all 3 centre-backs, comparing, contrasting and giving us some things to think about, Bart, it is much appreciated.
No worries, anytime.
And ladies and gents, that was another Transfer Market Metrics for Anfield Index.